Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Starting Five Sports Pod. And oh boy, do we got a busy show today with lots of news to talk and debate in the sports world. As always, we introduce our members and their athlete of the week that you need to watch out for. I'm your host, Sean, and my athlete of the week is Chris Hogan, and here's why. Chris Hogan recently had a sports shift. Chris Hogan is known for being a Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots, but now he is hoping to be a PLL champion with the PLL Cannons lacrosse team. This is really a shocking news as Chris Hogan has spent the last 10 years in the NFL with 3 different teams, but now is looking to make a splash in the PLL and win a championship with the Cannons. Now let's pass the ball to my teammates. Jared, who's your athlete of the week?
Hey, what's up, Sean? My athlete of the week is another former Patriot, and unfortunately, we won't be seeing him on the field much anymore. He may be coming back, maybe for the Bucks, as all former Patriots do these days. But I'm picking Julian Edelman. I mean, the former quarterback out of Kent State, you gotta love him, and he was Tom Brady's one of Tom Brady's top targets. Helped them a bunch in the playoffs, and when he announced his retirement, I mean that's another key piece of that core New England Patriots team that's gone now. How about you, Lucas?
Yeah, my sports athlete of the week is going to be Justin Fields. I went with Justin Fields because he's been getting a lot of flack in the media recently for his work ethic, but he's having his second pro day today, and I saw some videos already, and he looked like he was slinging that ball. So I think he really needs to get some respect and more attention, because people are picking other quarterbacks over him whenever I think he's one of the top rated ones.
And how about you, Martin?
How's it going, everybody? My athlete of the week is Anthony Edwards from the Minnesota Timberwolves. I would say most people know some information about their boss, and new ownership is coming into Minnesota, including Alex Rodriguez, who I think everybody knows, except for apparently Anthony Edwards. And he was asked about if he was a fan at all of A-Rod growing up, and his response was, "A fan? Who is he?" Which is probably great for A-Rod's ego, and it's just hilarious to me that a kid who claimed that he was great at baseball in high school when he played has no clue who Alex Rodriguez is. So just for the fun of breaking up monotony and things going on in the world, Anthony Edwards is my athlete of the week.
Awesome. Now, Chen, close us out, and let's get on it with it.
All right. My athlete of the week is Trevor Lawrence. You guys can remember he's had an outstanding career at Clemson, quarterback, led his team to the national championship in 2019. And he's decided to enter the draft 2 years later. And he's potentially predicted to be the first overall pick of the 2021 NFL draft.
More on that later, but let's talk about another Clemson quarterback. With all that out of the way, let's talk about the news that shocked the sports world. Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson has been accused of multiple accounts of sexual assault against massage therapists, and recent reports have brought forth victims who have publicly spoke, painting Deshaun in a negative light. So I asked my teammates, what will make of this Deshaun Watson situation? You guys have 6 minutes, go.
Well, it's really unfortunate. Because we hear the story way too often today. It seems of someone famous, someone with, say, a lot of power, a lot of money, taking advantage of women, and we've had these cases. I believe, someone correct me, but 22 cases now of women. 21 cases of these stay-at-home or like work-at-home massage therapists who are getting sexually assaulted and harassed by, the face of the Houston Texans organization. It's with it still being ongoing. I'm not excited by any means to see what the final result is, but I am intrigued by it.
Yeah, there's nothing good that's going to come out of this, unfortunately. It was just released today, I believe, if I understood the report correctly, that Tony Busby actually refiled all 21 remaining accusations against Deshaun. And now all of the accusers' information is going to be revealed for the public and Rusty Hardin and the defense to see, which, from my perspective, if I'm lying about something, I don't want to put my name on the lie. So I'm not saying Deshaun did it. I'm not saying anybody is not telling the truth, but it just doesn't look good if they're essentially doubling down on their accusation and saying, sure, we'll call what you think is a bluff and tell you exactly who we are, so that you can go forward with whatever it is you think you need to look into. So I don't think football matters at this point. If I'm Deshaun Watson, he needs to figure out what's going on with his personal life and if he's going to face jail time or not.
Yeah. Yeah, it really sucks for me because personally he was my favorite player in the NFL. I was so excited when he was drafted for the Texans as a Texans fan, and it's tough to see this. And I don't want to defend him in any way, and because these accusations are serious, but it's really heartbreaking, to be honest. And hopefully we get this sorted soon though, so that way we do know what the results are going to be. But it's not looking good for him, I'm gonna be honest. It's not looking good.
Yeah, I can agree. From a fan's point of view, to see your star player get accused, I think I can relate to that. As a Patriots fan, I remember when Aaron Hernandez was accused of murder. When I first heard the news, I couldn't believe it. But eventually, you'll just have to accept it. And as a fan, you'll probably either have to move on from Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, we were just talking, before we started, I'm not a Texans fan by any stretch of the imagination. And I mean, he was, this good, he was a good player, good on and off the field, a genuine individual. And it's unfortunate for, someone who enjoys the sport of football, enjoys the NFL, to see, one of its positive, shining lights get shut down for such terrible reasons.
Yeah, and he was looked up to by many kids and even his fellow teammates. He was a leader on the team, and he was a big leader, and it's just terrible that he was doing this.
I think with all this stuff coming out, an interesting angle to look at is Jack Easterby's presence in the Texans organization, because he was public enemy number one prior to all of this coming out. And there are theories that I've seen on Twitter from guys that covered the Texans locally that maybe when Easterby was having a player followed and was calling players' moms about what they were doing, if maybe that player wasn't Deshaun, and maybe there was some potential worry about what was going on with Deshaun because he was getting massage tables from the team. And then I think they coincided the timeline where when the equipment manager got fired, who was essentially helping him get the massages outside of the Texans organization, at least getting the equipment, not necessarily setting any appointments up. But that's when Deshaun seemed to be upset and wanted out. It's probably not anything, but it's just an interesting angle that maybe Easterby isn't the bad guy that everybody thinks he is. He definitely doesn't need to be involved in trading players or anything going on with personnel, but I mean, his job is just like a morale guy. So maybe he was doing his best and was misunderstood.
One thing I know about the equipment manager, I know that he was well liked by a lot of players. I know JJ spoke very highly of him as well before he left.
Right.
But you never know, honestly. It's hard for me to believe that a sports organization would go this far to hurt a player, but you never know in today's world.
Yeah, that's the real tough part, is you don't know. And it's you want to believe, what would be the right thing, but there's just, you never know whose hands are involved, behind the curtain, right? I don't know. It's a very, very tough scene right now for both Deshaun Watson, the Texans organization, and just I don't know, for the city of Houston, really. I mean, this is their icon, and to have someone that big and that who's meant so much to so many have something like this come up, it really is just awful.
Do you guys find it weird that these people didn't come out until Deshaun Watson wanted to leave Houston and play for a different team?
No.
I would also say no. But again, it's just me going back to, I genuinely don't know. I mean, we can read so much. It's just, I just don't know. I can't say.
Well, time's up. Great discussion. It flowed really well. And just pointing something out, we all have a responsibility to listen to these people when they're ready to speak, when they're ready to share, and when, most importantly, they're comfortable speaking on what happened. So no matter what happens, we all have to monitor the situation carefully. And like we all mentioned, Deshaun Watson was definitely on his way out of Houston. And the Texans were likely to receive a first-round pick, nice pick package for him. Now, if the Texans did end up trading for Deshaun Watson, with the upcoming draft coming up, it was probably going to be used on a quarterback. With so many top quarterbacks going in this year, who are the best quarterbacks in the NFL upcoming?
Well, this draft class is slammed full. I mean, we were just talking about some of the quarterbacks that are, still fighting for that first spot. But I'm going with Justin Fields. He's the man. He is the man. And I just see that image of him, rolling out of the pocket and throwing, cross field 65 yards, whole indoor facility erupts. That's the man I want, taking control of my franchise. But what about y'all?
He's also very similar to Deshaun Watson. I mean, I feel like he's a very similar quarterback to him because he's a similar style quarterback as Deshaun Watson. And I feel like his situation is similar where he's falling in the draft because of mysterious reasons. And I feel like he's a very, very similar style quarterback. He's falling in the draft just like how Deshaun was. And I find it interesting how they rate quarterbacks in the combine and stuff, because just like in Deshaun Watson's draft class, there was Mitchell Trubisky went before Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun. And now it seems like a lot of quarterbacks are going to go before Justin Fields, which could benefit in the Texans' case because we don't have a first-round pick. And maybe we can trade up and get in there, get in the mix for one.
Well, how about you, Chin? You were speaking very highly in the pre-show of a certain guy.
Yes, sir. Trevor Lawrence, that's my guy. Now, I've seen some videos recently on his NFL draft scout that he hasn't been performing well. And I heard that he's been doing that so it can make the other quarterbacks of his draft class look good because he doesn't want to go to the Jaguars. But I still think he'd be a good fit for the Jaguars because each season of his college career, he's been throwing 30-plus touchdowns and over 3,000 yards. And I think that he's good enough so that wherever team he goes, he's going to thrive.
I think we've discussed Fields and Trevor Lawrence, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Quick question for y'all. Who do y'all think is one guy that nobody's really talked about? Because, we have Kyle Trask, Jamie Newman, all these guys coming out of college. But I feel like the divide is very big between, like Lucas said, like how they rate quarterbacks in the draft. But nobody knows for sure if any of these guys are going to pan out. So who is one underrated guy? Let's go around the table. Martin.
Kellen Mond is probably interesting out of A&M. And yeah, nobody knows, for one. Quarterbacks are a crapshoot in general. But physically, I don't mean necessarily style of play or anything like that, but just how they look when I watch them play. Kellen Mond reminds me a lot of Colin Kaepernick. The way he throws the ball, his body type. He's an explosive runner like he was. So if that's what you're getting out of Kellen Mond, and the Texans have an opportunity to get him with what I believe is a run-heavy offense that David Culley is bringing, that seems like a good fit potentially.
What about you, Lucas?
I think he's still talking. I'm gonna go with Mac Jones, but I think he's still like high they talked about. But I still feel like compared to like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, they're by the media standpoint, they're the top two, and then Zach Wilson as well. He's very in there, but I think Mac Jones is a really good quarterback, and I feel like he can make a good effort on a lot of teams. Maybe like the 49ers, for example. I feel like he'd be good for the 49ers.
And you, Chin?
I also have my eyes on Zach Wilson. He's projected to go second overall, but with these kind of things, you never really know how they're going to go out with quarterbacks. Great example would be Tom Brady. Everyone said that he wouldn't make it, and look at him now. Won 7 Super Bowls in his NFL career.
And Jared, close out this discussion on the draft.
I really like Trey Lance. The guy out of North Dakota State. He's I don't know. I feel like his name's been circulated, but because he's playing for an FCS school that, their competition, their level of competition and their level of play isn't as good, and at least in my opinion, say as the top SEC or maybe even top Big 12 play. But he's still a solid quarterback, and I mean, this is the same program that created Carson Wentz, and I don't know. I really feel like he could make his way into becoming a franchise quarterback if put in the right situation.
All right, right on time. Great job, Jared. All right,
Sharper.
so something to note about Trey Lance is while he was at North Dakota State University, he called his own offensive line shifts. So if there's a team out there who has some very high level offensive linemen, that could be really valuable information for them to kind of build around Trey Lance and hope that for the best, honestly, because like we all went over, out of college, a lot of these players you never know. But yeah, speaking of college, March Madness just wrapped up its season, and before oh my gosh, I'm gonna restart and cut that out. Cut that out, editor. Speaking of college athletics, March Madness just wrapped up its season, and before we hop into what many people consider the main event, let's talk about what fans normally don't see. Recently, a video surfaced about the differences between the accommodation for the women's basketball tournament compared to the men's. Look at those differences. And when asked to comment on the situation, the justification the NCAA gave was there was no space for it. So I want to ask our panel, was the NCAA right in their response?
Absolutely not. It was the cheapest cop-out I think I've ever seen. I mean, like, in today's day and age, I mean, there's never been or I shouldn't say never, but the push for equality for all today, I mean, it's unmatched since decades ago. And it's, for the NCAA to fumble this situation in such a massive way on their biggest stage. March Madness is their biggest, time to shine, and they really let these women or the female athletes down. They, we see the food that the men get compared to the women. The men have these full buffet bars, and they could eat all they want, and women get just like these small little plastic to-go trays. And the weight room was maybe a handful of dumbbells, but the men get a whole hall just to themselves to work out. They really fumbled the situation, and their response was very, very poor. How about you, Lucas? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, not only that, the whole no space excuse, that's ridiculous to me, because the NCAA picked this location for the women. So like, you should have thought that beforehand, maybe before picking that location. So that whole excuse is just some baloney. But I mean, just if you're gonna be honest about it, you'll earn more respect when you're honest about stuff than saying no space. Because they showed videos, like the women athletes showed videos, and there was clearly space. Like they could have definitely made a better effort for it. And the food was outrageous. And like I saw one picture of like a bed for one of the men's athletes, and it was just completely covered in NCAA stuff. Like, and then the women's got like a bag and maybe a water bottle. That's just outrageous. What about you, Shin?
All right, so I don't want to be that person that kind of says it, even though men's sports usually generates more revenue than women. I still think that women's sports should still be treated equally to men's sports, because competition is competition. And I just think that if the men's side gets something, the women's side should sort of be treated equally in that aspect. What do you think, Martin?
Yeah, not to beat a dead horse and be boring and agree with you guys, but there's really no other way to look at this. I mean, it's the age of social media. The fact that the NCAA is the size of an organization as it is and thinks it's still going to get away with stuff like this is kind of asinine and stupid. I mean, there's already the conversation about not paying them and it not being fair and scholarships being enough and blah, 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 as if they don't bring in more money than most aspects of anything in the universities. So to continue that, along with the conversation of whether men and women are getting equal things and participation and whatnot, is again stupid. Going into these tournaments, part of this is my interest with COVID and things being weird, but I knew two names, and one of them was a woman's name, and one of them was a men's name. So it's not like there was an overwhelming amount of star power on one side of the tournament. They should just get the same things as is possible. Of course, revenue is revenue, and you're going to have that conversation with correlation, but it's just not worth even having that conversation. If you're going to provide one side with something, just give the other side the exact same thing. It's not like the money there.
Yeah, you brought up a very good point. Like, they're not getting paid. So like, what I don't, the players don't lose. They don't lose anything by. I mean, obviously the NCAA is going to spend more money for giving the women, equal stuff to the men, but that's the whole point. And it's not like the NCAA is strapped on cash by any stretch of the imagination. So they can certainly throw just a little bit more just for equality. I mean, that's really what it is when you boil it down. These athletes want to be equal to their men counterpart, and when they absolutely should be. And it's just it really is tragic to see that. It's that they think they can get away with it, like you said, Martin. It's just
lazy on the part of the NCAA.
Yeah,
they do it thinking
sure.
it's a big deal.
They make so much money off these athletes, especially even if they make a lot more money off the men. Like, you can use some of that money that you make off the men for the women. It doesn't have to go straight to the men's side.
Exactly.
That's right.
You're not paying them.
Yeah, and on that note, we're out of time for that one, but we all most certainly got to pay attention on how that develops, because I'm sure we all have friends in like baseball, softball. I have close friends in both, as well as women's basketball, men's basketball, though I don't know anybody there. There's a clear difference, as we just talked about, men's and women's lacrosse. How will these sports kind of even out to say, hey, we're both playing the same game and we're both playing the same level of competition? What's going to make of this? We will certainly watch out, because players and fans will probably take sides on this. All right. Now on to the main event of March Madness. In the men's tournament, Baylor won a decisive game over undisputed number 1 team Gonzaga, and Stanford won the women's tournament in a close game versus Arizona by 1 point. And this was definitely a competitive tournament, guys, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so what do you guys think will be there, and which teams will be back next season?
I think the Baylor's defense was just so good. That's what the defense and the rebounding was just so good. That's what gave them that dominant win, not only over Gonzaga, also over U of H. And I mean, I didn't see too many players in Baylor. I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but I don't know how many are applying for the draft. So I think a lot of them are coming back. So I think they'll be right back in next year, along with Gonzaga as well.
What about you, Jared? I know you were very keen on this tournament.
Oh man, this tournament was an absolute blast to watch. I mean, nothing's better than having your own program, make it to the Final Four. I mean, every game this tournament though was so good, and the upsets. I mean, Oral Roberts making it as far as they did, and I mean they destroyed all 24 of the brackets I made. So. But the teams I think that'll be coming back, don't count out Calvin Sampson. We already got some transfers coming in from big programs across the country, and UH is definitely going to be making some noise years to come. And also University of Texas, the Longhorns picking up Chris Beard out of Texas Tech, cross-state rival, cross-conference rival. Those two schools hate each other. It's going to be good seeing UT and Texas Tech play each other next season. And, man, I'm sad it's over. What about you, Chin?
For sure. I think this March Madness was really enjoyable to watch. There was a great deal of games that I enjoyed. Houston winning, making it to the Final Four. Although they lost to Baylor, I still think it's amazing how Houston made it to the Final Four. Baylor overall was just that much better, and then took care of business in the finals. And for that, I think Baylor for sure is coming back next year. What about you, Martin?
I would say my moments of each side of the tournament, the best game of the men's tournament that I saw was the UCLA Gonzaga game.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Underdog,
That
sure,
was
but
amazing.
I'm sorry, UCLA was considered an underdog because they were an 11 seed, but they have that many or more championships, so I don't really think that counts as an underdog when you're UCLA. But it was like a Jalen Suggs coming out party. There was the block on one end that led to a fast break bounce pass from half court, dunk, and then of course the game winner, which Mark Few said he knew he was going to make, which is saying a lot when a dude shoots it from damn near half court. I think I'm saying her name right, Ari McDonald from Arizona.
Yeah.
Locking down Paige Buchers, who was like, the the highlight of the headline of the women's tournament coming in and beating UConn to get into the championship game. Unfortunately, they lost, but her pose at half court after she hit that shot and she was killing UConn. Those were the two biggest moments of each side of the tournament for me, and what made it the most fun. UConn is the big dog; doesn't really get any bigger on the women's side, and seeing them get upset is pretty cool. Upsets are cool. That's why we watch March Madness.
So let's talk about UConn for a sec, because the men's tournament was pretty wide open this year, wasn't it? Right? But I'm pretty sure we all, when we looked at the women's tournament for the first time, the no-brainer was UConn. So what does that say in terms of like the level of March Madness, truly madness, and the level of basketball across the country? Because UConn used to just dominate these tournaments like nobody's business.
Nobody's safe.
I think
this level of competition stepping up.
Yeah, I think with COVID, you especially saw it on the men's side, there was just more of an opportunity. The playing field was more level because whether people didn't make the tournament, like Duke and Kentucky not being in the tournament, double-digit seeds making it far in, and then on the women's side, UConn losing. Granted, it's the Final Four. It's not like it's a failure, although championship or bust for them. But I think the craziness of the COVID world we live in now just allowed for crazier things to happen.
I agree with that. I mean, I read something before March Madness began, all these wild predictions that all the analysis come up with, and all of them across the board, said expect higher or expect more upsets. And these upset teams, the Cinderellas, to make it farther than normal. It's because, COVID's really affected everyone, and it's truly difficult to, be your best self in terms of an athlete when the world is, getting that everything we know is getting torn apart because of COVID. And you brought up a very good point in the women's tournament. That championship game, Martin, that championship game was crazy. Arizona down by 2, I believe, last second, and they had a timeout. They could have taken a timeout, but no, both tournaments were an absolute blast, and it was nice to finally have something to cheer for.
I want to say we saw last year in the bubble for the NBA that I feel like the bubble makes people play better in the bubble, because not only do you get to rest, I feel like more, you go straight to your hotel room and you get to rest, and there's the fan aspect. I feel like it's a real thing. The fans not being there can make people play better. I feel like it helps a lot of players. And I feel like we saw that a lot last year in the NBA, and that's why I feel like there was a lot more upsets this year than normal.
Yeah, I generally enjoy watching upset games because it just shows us that standings don't always matter, because if a team, say they don't show up one day, then they'll basically lose and the next team moves on to play. And that's just why I love watching March Madness.
Well, that was a great conversation, y'all. I'm personally looking forward to seeing UH bounce back next season and us going no-brainer UConn, see how far they come back. With all that out of the way, kind of closing out our show, any last words you guys have? Let's go around the table. Martin, any sports news people need to watch out for?
I just can't get over the craziness that is the NFL draft, and for some reason, Justin Fields isn't still considered quarterback 2. I don't know what happened between the last time he played and now, and why Mac Jones is all of a sudden Tom Brady. But and I don't know. I'm going to take the guy who can run a 4.4 and throw for 75% accuracy and see what happens. But that's just me.
Yeah,
Lucas?
I think this. Oh
no, sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I think this NFL draft this year is going to be pretty amazing to watch, see what each team picks, especially with all the quarterbacks in this year's NFL draft.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what Martin said. I agree with Justin Fields. I find it outstanding that he's not the number 2 quarterback, and I feel like he should be, and I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong whenever he's not taken there.
And Jared?
My last thoughts, going to take a step out of football. Austin FC starting their inaugural season in a couple days for Major League Soccer. I grew up in Austin, and I've never thought I'd see the day they'd have a professional team. I think they deserve it, and so I think that's my new favorite soccer team going forward. I'm gonna be repping the boys in green. So
Awesome. And for me, watch out the young guns, but also keep an eye on Sam Darnold. That's gonna be my WTF fantasy prediction this year.
watch out, Charlotte.
All right,
Stop
guys.
seeing Ghost.
Hey, man. Adam Gates was the problem. But anyways, that's our show. Thanks for watching, everyone.